Hello and welcome to another video. So we're going to continue our work with systems of linear inequalities. You don't have to take any notes today. If you would like to take notes, feel free. I can tell you when you're in 2 years from now, when you're juniors in the Algebra 2 class, you'll do these topics again. So if you do like the notes that I'm providing for you, you might want to write these down and keep the information for that future class. But let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to start with, two multiple choice examples, and then we're going to do one graph together. So for the two multiple choice examples, here's our first one. So I have this system. Sometimes we draw a curly brace around a system, not always though. So I don't think I've been drawing that, but sometimes you'll see that. And that's the system. And we want to know which graph matches. So there are a lot of clues that you can use to help here. Some clues are whether lines are solid or dashed, whether you're shading above or below. Y-intercepts of the lines can be clues, and slope can be a clue. You can start wherever you want, but I would start by thinking about solid and dashed, because that's kind of a quick one to look at the lines and possibly rule some things out. This system should have one solid line and one dashed line. Now, unfortunately for this example, that doesn't eliminate any choices because we have a solid and a dashed in each of these examples. But sometimes you'll be able to knock out some of the selections. Let me take a look next, maybe at shading above or below. That doesn't have to be what you were thinking. You could next look at y-intercepts or you could look at slopes. But I'm going to look at shading above or below. I see that both of these are below. So I should not see any shading above the lines. So let me peek at this one. Okay, that's shaded below. And so is that one. Okay. This one is shaded below. But the solid line is shaded above. So I can eliminate this one because they're shading above that solid line. For this one, I have shading above. Let me look at the solid line. We have below the solid line, but for the dashed line, do you say it's shaded above? Because that guy would stand here. So I can cross that one out. Now, and then for D, we have shading below the solid line. You can see that here. And we have shading below the dashed line. You can see that here. That can be a tricky one to tell. So if you have any difficulty looking at this one and deciding if this was shaded above or below, you don't have to use that clue next. You can use a different clue instead. All right, next. Let me take a look at the y-intercepts. So I should have a y-intercept at 1 and a y-intercept at -2. This line has a y-intercept at +2, and this line has a y-intercept at -2. So I got the -2, but I don't have a y-intercept at +1. So this can't be one of those lines. Neither one of the lines has a y-intercept at 2, so I can cross out A. By process of elimination, D has to be my final answer here. And I can check and confirm a little bit more by making sure I have the correct y-intercepts and the correct slopes. So I should have a y-intercept of 1. There we go. That line should have a slope of -1/3. So down 1, right 3, that looks good. And it's solid and I'm shading below. And then the other line should have a y-intercept of -2 with a slope of -4/3. So down 4, right 3, that looks good as well. So D is our correct answer. And by the way, if you were looking at the slopes earlier, this one here does not have the correct slope. So if you look, actually the slopes are incorrect on both of these. So the slopes actually would have helped you rule out this one as well pretty quickly. All right. So again, you have lots of different clues to use, and you don't have to use them in any particular order. It's whatever you feel most comfortable with. And I should have mentioned at the very beginning of this that you can see in the examples that this is another type of shading. So you guys know that when I shade, I usually use 2 different colors and look for the overlapping part. But you've also seen examples where instead of shading everything, only the overlapping part is shaded. So instead of shading, so for this example, instead of shading everything below the dashed and everything below the solid and then finding what's overlapping, only the overlapping part is shaded. That's very common in multiple choice questions when it comes to this topic. So I just thought I'd make you aware. All right, and we did see that in class the other day. Let's take a look at another example. Okay, let's see if you guys have any initial thoughts about this one. Do you think this is A, B, C, or D? All right, now that your first answer choice has been selected, let's see what we come up with. So the first clue I would use here is solid or dashed. And if you look, these should both be dashed. Now for the previous example, that didn't allow us to eliminate any choices. But for this example, I can cross out A right away because they're both solid and B right away because they're both solid. And you know what? I can even cross out C. So by using that clue first, I'm able to come up with D as my correct answer. But you don't have to do it that fast because that just happened to work well for this example. In the previous example, knowing that one was solid and one was dashed didn't help at all. All right. But in this example, finding out they're both supposed to be dashed lines actually gave us everything we needed. But let's confirm that we have correct answers here. All right, I see that I have y less than -1. Okay, and if you look, you have that horizontal line through -1 for all of them. So that clue may not have helped you right away. But we do want to shade below that horizontal line. I'm shading below the horizontal line, so that looks good. And then this right here is not in slope-intercept form. So just to confirm that we have the correct answer, let's go ahead and move the 2x over. I didn't mean to write that y there. Let me white that out. And again, I know we already have the answer, but we're just trying to confirm that our answer is correct. So let's take a look at this line now that I have it in slope-intercept form. So I move the 2x over, and there's nothing to divide by, and I don't need to reverse inequality because I didn't multiply or divide by negative. So does the other line have a y-intercept of -3 and a slope of down to right 1? Down to right 1. Looks good, or you can go up to left 1. Looks good. And and I should check. We're shading above here, right? Shading above. So is the shading above the dashed line? Yes. All right, so hopefully that helps you out a little bit with multiple choice. And for our last one today, I'm going to graph a system of linear inequalities. And I think you can see what's different about this one right away. This one has 3 inequalities. So systems don't just have to be 2, it's 2 or more. And again, up to you. If you want to copy this down, feel free. If you don't want to copy it down, that's going to be okay. We're going to graph these one at a time. And I have 3 color pencils because that's the style I prefer for graphing my inequalities. So here's my first one. This is a horizontal line through y equals 2. There's no x involved at all. It's just y. So if I think y equals, I'm looking at a horizontal line through 2. I know it's going to be dashed because it doesn't have the or equal to. And I'm going to shade below because it says less than. Okay, I'm going to shade kind of light because we're going to end up with 3 colors on this. It can get kind of messy. So for those of you who prefer the other method where you just kind of visualize or draw arrows to show where you're going to be shading, that works very nicely here as well. Okay, next one is y is less than or equal to 3/2 x plus 1. All right, so this has a y-intercept at 1. And I just chose green. There's no correct order or no correct color to use. I just picked a different color. So I have y-intercept of 1. I have a slope of 3/2. 3, up 3, right 2, up 3, right 2. Let me grab a straight edge for that. Okay, you know what? Let me go down 3, left 2, just for more points. And when I do this, is that going to be solid or dashed? It has the or equal to, so you want it to be solid. And then we want to shade below. So below is here. So if we only had 2, this overlapping part would be the solution. But we have 3 inequalities this time. So we still have to graph the third line. So let me grab a third color. My third color happens to be blue. It could be any color. And we are going to graph this line now. So here's my y-intercept at -5. Here's my slope of 4. So I'm going to count up 4 and right 1. And I'm going to go down 4 and left 1. Let me go up 4 and right 1 more time. The more points, the more accurate my graph is. So I feel a little more confident about it. And that one's going to be solid. And should I shade above or below for this one? This one, we are going to shade above because it's the greater than kind. So I'm going to shade above. I'm keeping my shading kind of light because there's so many colors here. Now don't go past the blue boundary line. You don't want to go past that. You want to stay above it the whole time. Okay. And then it's a little tricky, but you need to look for where all three colors are. So if you look, this is only blue. This has no colors if you look carefully. This is only green. This is green and orange. This is blue and orange for my Mets or Knicks fans. And then we have all three colors here. So this is the solution region. And if anyone is taking the notes at home, this is where a highlighter can come in handy because it's kind of hard to tell where. Oh, and you know what? There's a little tiny piece right here we have to be careful of. This right here is blue and green only. There's no orange there. So the solution region actually has this little dash part of the orange, includes the solid green, includes the solid blue, and everything in here. Okay, but it doesn't make like a triangle because it doesn't include this part. Why is that part not included? Which color is it not using? We're not using the orange there because the orange is shaded below. So this part is only blue and green. We don't want to include that in the solution region. All right. Thanks for watching. See you next time.